I am so excited to be joined today by one of our incredible mid-career mentors, Bertha Robinson. Thank you for joining us and leading this workshop.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa, for having me. This is great.
I want to brag for a second about Bertha and talk about how incredible and fabulous she is before I turn the reins over to her. She founded Star One Professional Services, which specializes in executive coaching, business strategy, and leadership development. So feel free to reach out to her afterwards if you want to continue this conversation. She has over 25 years of experience in business analysis, organizational growth, and really works with leaders and teams to empower them on their journey. Focused on where goal setting ends and goal achieving begins. She has a zillion certifications in coaching and assessing emotional intelligence. Really tries to tailor the strategies to align leadership strengths with the business objectives. She's a longtime community leader, serves on a bunch of boards throughout New Jersey, including the New Jersey State Women's Chamber of Commerce, was the past president of the New Jersey Association of Women Business Owners, is a member of the Women United Leadership Council and United Way of New Jersey. She is based in Somerset, New Jersey, and shares her insights as a life strategist on the Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life platform. So we are thrilled to have you here, Bertha. I am going to put on my student hat and turn the reins over to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's great to be here with you and with all of you. Thank you for sparing some time in this lunch hour together. And I'm going to share my screen so we can get started. So this is resilient leadership. We're going to learn how to harness internal strength for external impact. And basically, we're going to get some keys and tips and some tactics today. But of course, the learning happens after today's session. So take down some notes. There's an accompanying ebook that you might have received already or you'll get after. So that you can continue the learning, continue in the practice, and to work together as a support. So let's jump right on in on what our journey is going to be together for these short few minutes that we have together today. So our journey together today, we're going to go over a little bit of the introduction about what is resiliency, how do you define it, shifting from internal to external resiliency. How do we manage, the work world today, overwhelm and prioritizing work, fostering resiliency as a leader, navigating professional boundaries and all that oversharing or sometimes too much oversharing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we'll build some personal strategies for each of our own resiliency and how do we shape and form and strengthen our teams. The takeaway for today, if there's nothing else, it's going to be about those three pillars of resiliency that we will close out with, and then taking action. So no matter, and I know that you all can probably share and testify to this, that when you participate in these fantastic webinars that we have today, the most important part is to take action so that that's where you can see the change. So let's jump right in. As I mentioned, pull out your phones. And if you can please screenshot this QR code, this is going to take you to our first Slido of the day. And I'd like for you to share with us all today in the room, how do you define resilience in a word or two? In a word or two, how do you define resilience? No right or wrong. This is your definition in a word or two for resilience. And I see some of you are typing. I knew strength was going to come through. Absolutely. Flexibility and strength. That's coming through pretty strong. So most of you are answering that. Steadiness, persistence, power. Yes. Moving forward. I love that. Never giving up, bouncing back, the ability to bounce back, persistence, grace and grit. Thank you for that. Bending, not breaking. And I see courage, absolutely. And if you see how we're answering this, and we continue to add some words, please feel free as we're talking through. These are characteristics that we all have. We all have that reservoir. How we deepen the reservoir or how often we dip into the reservoir is a lot about what we'll talk about today. And then how do we share that with others is what we're going to talk about with external resiliency. Okay, so we're going to move forward. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's get started. So we talked about resiliency. Let's talk about resilient leadership. And what is that? What does that look like? So resilient leadership is defined as a mindset that connects the personal well-being, that we just talked about, being courageous, moving forward, not breaking, dipping into that personal resilience with the ability to support others. So that mindset that connects the bridge between the internal and the external is how we define resilient leadership for today. What I'd like to highlight and the importance of the resilient leadership is that it's the way that we show up. It's the way that we show up with our personal and professional presence. It's how we create and strengthen a supportive network. What does it allow us to do? Drives agility, being nimble in uncertain times. And I know that we can have a whole conversation around that just for an hour. How do we pivot more quickly? Is having this resilient leadership. It helps to model psychological safety so that our teams can see us as leaders, manage stress and setbacks openly, letting them know, hey, a little vulnerability is okay. The E word in business, right? Emotions, or the F word in business, feelings, it's okay. It boosts employee engagement and retention so that when people are being seen and heard and valued, they're less likely to burn out and look elsewhere, but they'll stay with a team that sees them and hears them. So these are some of the keys to resilient leadership and why it's important. So it starts with us, but it extends to our team. And then fostering resiliency as a leader is just that we are modeling psychological safety, that we're adapting quickly, that we're being nimble, so that we're enhancing now stakeholder trust as well, so that we can foster resiliency as a group, as a collective, impacting our culture. So I have these three words down here: adapt, empathize, and act. And as I said a slide ago, these are going to be the three pillars that I'd like for you to walk away with today: adapting, empathizing, and acting. And we'll talk more about that soon. So how do we make this shift? We defined resiliency. We've just talked about resilient leadership. How do we make this shift? And it's a movement that goes both ways. So internal resiliency is what we talked about. It's that self-care practices, such as personal reflection, individual growth activities that helps us to maintain our well-being. The external resiliency extends our inner strength to support a team, to build trusting relationships, to model consistent reliability. It's really being present and reliable for others, especially during difficult times, challenging times. So I told you to keep your phone nearby. I'd like to ask you to answer this prompt. Think about a moment when you faced a difficult time, a personal challenge, yet you found the energy to help someone else. What word or two would best convey that moment? So you're experiencing your own personal challenge, but as a leader, as a manager, as a mentor, someone else is needing you to extend your energy. Thank you. Empathy, absolutely. Compassion, yes. Serving others, I love that. I see powerful and proud, absolutely. Rising to the occasion. And if I were to take any and all of these words, this would be that bridge from internal resiliency to external resiliency. When you're asked to step up, even maybe when you don't feel like it, when you're like, oh gosh, how am I going to do this? You have to go down into that well of resiliency, internal resiliency, so you can be there to support others. Thank you for that. Community, devotion, developing others. Yeah, in it together. Absolutely. Because when you're doing that, it's not just for the other person, you also get that reward back, right? And most times I feel when I've done that, when I've gone over and extended myself to a point where I didn't think I could, but I did in that moment, even in that challenging time, I got so much more back. So absolutely, you're in it together. Thank you. All right, how about the world that we live in today, and specifically modern leadership today? We are in such a space right now where there's overwhelming workloads and emotional fatigue. So understanding the impact of overwhelming workloads, our emotional, mental fatigue, on our judgment, and even on our decision-making abilities. Understanding that impact, this is where resiliency comes into play. You want to be able to present strategies like delegation, prioritization, and a support system. You want to be able to identify on your team, and I'm sure many of you do that already, who can do this well so that I can pull back and do some of the strategic things, the other things that I can do. And actually, in that moment when you're delegating, that might be an opportunity where you're stretching and developing someone else. But identifying those tasks that others on your team can competently do, and you're developing trust on your team's capabilities so that it frees you to let go of some of that overwhelm. It frees you in some of those challenging moments and emotional fatigue. It's important as well to prioritize, and having some types of prioritizing techniques like time blocking. Doing this in advance of the challenge, in advance of the difficult situation, in advance of the overwhelm. Having some type of overlay so that when that moment comes, you have that in place. Time blocking, knowing what your strategic time blocks are, knowing what your buffer time blocks are, and your breakout blocks. Buffer time blocks are times where you can do the open door policy, times when you can answer emails and voicemails and phone calls, whatever that case may be, that the filler work that we tend to go to first, like opening up our inbox in the morning. Those are some of the things that you want to time block so that you can focus on the strategic things first. Strategic things are usually your revenue generating activities, things that you have to, where you have to talk to your team, where you have to talk about the plan. How are you working and doing things for the clients and your colleagues and your suppliers? Those types of conversations are strategic. Then your breakout time blocks, which to me, those should be at the very top of your time blocking planning. That's outside of work. That is time where you are now going to refill the reservoir. That's time for you to energize yourself. These are times when you're going to exercise. These are the times where maybe you can participate in yoga. All those times that are away from work, that are time for you to now maybe even reconnect with the relationships that you have outside of work, and to deepen and make those relationships even more meaningful. Hence the word breakout, outside of work. So your breakout, your buffer blocks, and your strategic blocks, setting up those clear priorities help you for when those challenging moments come, you're prepared. A support system, leaning on your team and your subject matter experts when needed. And that open communication is critical so that you can reduce stress and improve outcomes. So what does this all mean, and how does this fit into resilient leadership? Having a team that you have now communicated with, that you're delegating to, that you're prioritizing yourself, that you're modeling that as well for your team, that you're prioritizing things that you need to get done throughout the week through those buffer, breakout, and strategic time blocks. You are modeling for your team the way to do work, right? The way that work gets done. You're modeling for them that resilient leadership, and you're developing really through that support system. They're going to be there for you because you're there for them. You're improving your outcomes. I'd like for you to take an opportunity now on a piece of paper to complete this activity. And if you could, list 3 tasks that today you could delegate to maybe rearrange or better manage your workload. So 3 tasks that you could either delegate or rearrange to better manage your workload. Sometimes we're in the thick of things and we're not taking the moment to just break it down and to think about, okay, what can I move around? What can I delegate? What can I eliminate? What can I say no to now and yes to later? So if you can identify just 3 tasks that you can either delegate or rearrange to better manage your workload. That's an activity that you could do once a day, once a week, maybe every 2 weeks, but incorporate that in your calendar mapping or planning. And then the other thing I'd like for you to do is to write just one sentence, a 1-sentence action plan, really simple, really quick, and make it specific as to how you can reduce your current overwhelm. Maybe it's talking to a mentor. Maybe it's strategizing with someone at work. Maybe it's taking that new, exercise class. Maybe it's reading that book you've been putting off, or maybe it's rereading a book that you found a lot of great tactics and strategies from. You got to dust off and say, let me read that again. So one sentence action plan that's going to help you to reduce your current overwhelm. What's one thing that you could do? So that activity right there is just showing you that we can manage the things that are in our world if we just take a minute or two to just identify where can we move things around, or maybe who do I need to tap on, whose shoulder I need to tap on for some help, for some guidance, for some mentoring, that I can bounce ideas off of. Maybe that's part of your one sentence action plan to reduce overwhelm. But taking action is the key against overwhelm, to manage overwhelm. Okay, so we're going to move on. Navigating professional boundaries and oversharing. And sometimes we're going through things, challenging things, and we're sharing a little bit more than we need to. So we're going to look at appropriate sharing, what its long-term impact is, setting those limits, and maintaining professionalism. So the first thing is about sharing is sharing what you need to share with someone who can do something about it. Who are you sharing your challenges with? And are they someone who can provide you a resource? So once you say, I'm going through X, Y, and Z, and this is why I've been having these difficult moments, or I haven't been able to complete this project, or trying to meet whatever it is that you have to meet, a deadline, a project, etc. Is this someone that you're sharing with, someone who can provide you a resource, an outlet, and guidance? Or are we sharing this with other people in general that can't do anything about it? And you want to be able to identify and answer those questions, because you want to be able to maintain those boundaries and avoid oversharing, because it does have long-term impact. You want to be able to protect your professional image. You want to be able to make sure that people know that they can go to you, right? We talked about building and developing and supporting women, mid-level women, and the wonderful work that's done at the Center for Women in Business. We want to be able to, each one of us, have the impact that we can to protect our professional image as we're growing and developing and moving up in our careers. So giving us some guidelines and some barriers as to who we're sharing what with and why. So maybe taking a few seconds to just ask yourself, who am I sharing this with? Why am I sharing this with them? And what can they do about it? What resource, what outlet, what help will they bring to me, give to me in order to fix, to repair, to change, to whatever, reach the improved outcome that I want? So you want to be able to determine what that criteria is when we're sharing and whether we're sharing a challenge or personal detail. And you want to be able to reflect back on past experience and evaluate if we need to tighten our boundaries. And if we would have tightened our boundaries, would we have had a better outcome? So I have this quote right here on my desk that I keep every day, and I love it. And not that this is a failure, but this is, I think, a really good point. And it's a quote by Napoleon Hill, and it's from Outwitting the Devil. In his book, he says, every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. So if we've been there, done that, where we've shared or overshared in the past, going back to see what happened, what was the result, what was the impact to me, my professional image, what could I have done differently? There's so much value from that. So every failure brings with it the seed of its equivalent success. So reevaluating, looking back, reassessing, studying will help us next time to make a better decision, a more well-informed decision. So identify appropriate sharing, the long-term impact of what we're sharing, who we're sharing it with, why we're sharing. Setting those limits and boundaries to protect our image is important, and maintaining professionalism. And we're talking about this because we're modeling this for our teams, we're modeling this for others, but of course, again, back to resiliency. Okay, now let's look at our strategies. What are some personal strategies for building resiliency? So we've talked about this when we first defined resiliency. We said, I heard courage, I heard strength. Strength came up a lot. So how do we develop the courage and the strength? Self-reflection and goal setting is a great opportunity to do that. You want to be able to, as we just said, analyze our past experiences to identify what patterns and what are the areas for improvement. And we all have that biggest room, right? The biggest room is the room for improvement. We all have that. So reflection and self-reflection is key. Setting manageable, achievable goals that can help you to bolster your resiliency. What are some things that we can set up for ourselves, like we did in our one sentence action plan, that we know is helping to deepen that well for us, and then to also deepen the well for others on our team? Because if we're talking about resilient leadership, it's that internal and external resiliency that come into interplay. And then dedicating time in your week for personal growth activities. We are one individual, right? And when you're at work and you're growing your career and you're seeing your future and you're setting your goals, you're that same individual when you go home. Maybe you have different tasks, different roles, obviously, but I'm still Bertha. So having personal growth activities is obviously going to help my professional growth activities. So it's really important that we do things for ourselves. And we hear, the phrase, and when you're in an airplane, put on your oxygen mask first, then you can help others. We tend to forget about that. And we're on the go, on the go, on the go in our careers, ready to grow and to go on to the next step. But we forget to put on our oxygen mask. We forget to take the time to schedule and to set those activities that we need for ourselves. We do that really well. Now, putting that into our calendar and making it a habit, a positive habit, is something that we need to do. Then we also then need to look at, how do we then engage others? So when we look at the self-engagement, incorporate one new personal strategy, such as journaling, meditation, or exercise, into your weekly routine to enhance your resiliency. We're always going to need that. And I think that we are really good at that at times. We forget. I think we get on and we get off the bandwagon. Sometimes we need a reminder. But that's what's going to help us to have that external resiliency and to tap into that well, that reservoir, if we filled up our cup, so that we can be there for others and helping our teams. So I'm going to ask you all now to work. We're going to do some breakouts in just a second, but I want to just first say a big thanks to the sponsors for the Rutgers Center for Women in Business. Without these partners, we wouldn't be able to have sessions like these. We wouldn't be able to have our GROW program. That's a phenomenal gaining and retaining outstanding women. It's a mentoring program that I participated in, and I think it's a phenomenal program that the Center for Women in Business offers. And that's just one. So I really want to give a thank you and a shout out to our partners. I want you to pull out your phones one more time and share with the room what small action can you take today to build your resiliency? What small action, just one small thing that you can do to help build your resiliency? This is going to help you with your overall leadership resiliency. Go to sleep on time. Don't mock that. That's true. That's consistency. That's really big. If you've read the book by Brendan Burchard, High Performance Habits, energy is the second habit. And if you don't have the energy, any challenge that comes at you is just going to knock you out. So that's great. Yes, time blocking off sacred personal time, learning to trust others. Yes, eating better, absolutely, part of energy. Pause before responding, taking stock of where I am now. Think about what I need now. I love that. Checking in with a friend, absolutely. Putting my phone down and reading before bed. Get outside, notice nature around you. Accept that everyone is deserving of rest, including myself. Yes, yes, yes. Be kind to myself. Focus on my health. Speaking of energy, protect your energy. Take time off. Positive affirmations, prayer, persistence, personal development, reflect and be present. Scheduling based on my energy levels where possible. Putting back into me. Excellent. So when you're filling up this reservoir of self, your internal resiliency, it's going to help you to carry over and carry over across the bridge into external resiliency so that when you're needed and you got to tap in like that exercise that we did earlier, when you got to tap into that because someone's needing you for a challenge, they need your help, you'll have somewhere to pull from. Absolutely. Boundaries, boundary setting. Don't shut down. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Absolutely. And, anything I've learned, I have a mentor that teaches me anything of value has a difficulty factor attached to it. Anything of value has a difficulty factor attached to it. So when you are going through a challenge, that's when you want to meet it. You got to have a reserve to pull from. So absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So taking action and next steps, self-assessment. Some of you mentioned that as that small action, assessing yourself. Where can I improve? What are the opportunities? Encouraging self-assessment is really great. And then implementing one of these strategies for today. Reflect on your current practices. What can you do better? Can you shift maybe from an internal focus to nurturing the external support for your team? Highlighting the importance of engaging with your team, setting those measurable goals together. Initiate conversations, maybe a short meeting or discussing resiliency to share the ideas that they have, they can share back with you. Mutual support is really a key component of building external resiliency. So, and then setting those measurable goals, making them smart. I call them why smart. So yes, specific, measurable, attainable, realistically high and time bound, but I add 3 letters, WHY. W, write them down. H, they should be harmonious or in alignment with the direction that you're going in, and they should be your goals. So create the goals together as a team so that you all have ownership. So define those measurable goals together. So I want to just reflect, on a lot of the things that we talked about today. And I know our time has been quick and short. So just want to reflect back that resilient leadership isn't just a set of behaviors or a checklist, something to look at in your ebook, but it's a mindset, right? That connects your personal well-being with the ability to support and inspire others, especially during challenging times. So I want to encourage you to ask yourself another question. And this is really a question that I got from a fellow coach. And I love it because she got it from her mother. Her mother would ask her and her siblings, "What can you do now?" But it has 3 different inflection points. What can you do now? What can you do now? And what can you do now? Focus on the what, on what you can own, what can you do, and taking action now. I love this question. What can you do now? Think of it in any time that you're in a challenge. Think of it when you're about to start something new, embark on something new, when there's uncertainty. What can I control? We can control our own thoughts and our own actions. So, what can you do now? What can you do now? And what can you do now? So, I'm going to leave you with that closing question. We explored a lot of strategies, how we can move from internal self care to external resiliency. And this isn't only going to help you to navigate change, but the critical piece, I think, in my opinion, is to help support your team through change. Because again, as I mentioned, when you're supporting others, is going to be an immediate give back to you. So you're going to be able to help build a support network. You have that strong professional reputation. You're able to move forward together. And there isn't any challenge that you cannot overcome. That may sound cliche, but that's true. It may be unclear, you may not know when, but you can overcome and get to those improved results. So again, you'll be getting an ebook to help you to continue to thought, a thought partner, you can say, to think through some of these strategies. How can you implement some of these tactics to strengthen your internal resilience, cross over the bridge for external resilience, elevate your professional presence, and build a reliable supportive network around you? And then have others do the same. What you're doing, have others do that as well. Let them lead, build the bridge to support others, and to develop a strong support network. And that's community in your organizations. So with that, I want to thank you for your participation, your attendance, staying through the breakouts, working together. I hope that you've been engaging in the chat. I haven't been able to jump in there and look. I'm going to look in just a second. This is how you can connect with me. This is a QR code that will allow you to follow and hear some of the things that I'm talking about, that I'm sharing with my audience and my clients and our e-newsletter. So if you're interested, please scan this QR code. And then I'm also going to bring up the slides once again for our fantastic Center for Women in Business. I'm also going to bring back our fantastic Executive Director, Lisa Kaplowitz, as well, so she can close us out with any other closing remarks and comments. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your attendance, and I encourage you to take action today.
I learned a lot as well. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to adapt and get more patience, especially when there is more bureaucracy and things take longer than I think they're going to, but also empathize with those folks that know they're just doing their job. And so I'm the one who said, I'm going to take a pause before responding. So really appreciate that. Again, without our sponsors, we couldn't do what we're doing. So we're grateful for all of them. We're grateful for you, our community. We take somewhat of a beat during the summer and really look to plan out the next year. So you're going to be getting a post survey after this. If there are other topics that you would like us to do, please let us know. We'd love to engage with you. We always need more hands to do really the work to keep these talented women in the workplace longer, more competitively, and on track for senior leadership. These women being you, being me, etc. Again, we are 100% funded by the generosity of individuals and corporations. So please feel free to contribute whatever you can for the value that you have received throughout this presentation. So again, thank you very much. We are here to help. We are here to support. We are here to assist. You are not alone. Have a fabulous rest of the day. Have a fabulous summer, and please stay connected. Thank you.